out there on the socials, Facebook and YouTube. Hi, everyone. And we'll start letting people into the Zoom room. Hey, folks, welcome to the Zoom. Good to have you here. Thanks for showing up on this lovely holiday weekend. Yes. Here in Chicago, it's okay. It's kind of nice out. What is it? Maybe a little gray. It's not ideal. It's starting to get cold, you know. Ugh. But
Yeah, St. Louis is. We finally are out of the heat wave. It's a beautiful day today, but we're definitely. I can smell that fall in the air. The plants are looking peaked. The butterflies are starting to eat a lot and looking like they're trying to fatten up before they head south. Yeah, we're at the tail end of summer.
very poetic presentation of the seasonal change, Joe. Well done, sir. I'm going to read our intro to the program, so people know what they're getting themselves into, and we'll dive right into it with one of our favorite guests and community members, Joe Jackson. Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. So we gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating, that's you, Joe, and knowledgeable, that's you too, folks in the piano world, including manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses. That is an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. You can also subscribe to Radio Hour for just $16 a month, and you get direct access to each week's private Zoom call, as well as all the archival recordings of well over 200 episodes in our member area. You can join using the link bit.ly/join-PTRH. And of course, before we get started, I want to mention some of the other things you want to check out. The podcast, the audio-only versions of Piano Tech Radio Hour. We had this archive of all our content, and we were on pause from releasing it, but it's starting to come back out again in dribbles, and we're actually, the faucet's on full, and releasing about 2 episodes a week right now. Some of the more recent sessions, so this one should be out pretty soon, but then also some of the archivals, and our listenership's already rocketing back up again, and so we even built a following while we were on hiatus, I noticed. So that's really great. We also have our Substack, and there you can see articles that pertain to the masterclass private member area content, and you can also check out our socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and go to the website to sign up for our email list. Now, without further ado, let us introduce today's guest, Joe Jackson. He is a renowned piano rebuilder and technician with over 20 years of experience, known for his ethical business practices and dedication to preserving acoustic pianos, as we will investigate that today. Joe leads one of the largest rebuilding operations in the country. His team of 25 craftsmen handles everything from intricate pedal work to full restorations, all while championing the cultural and artistic value of real wood pianos. Beyond his workshop, Joe mentors technicians worldwide, sharing insights on turning complex repairs into both artistry and sustainable business. Joseph Jackson, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? I've got an air handler going behind me.
You're fully on. No, we can't hear that. Zoom,
Wonderful.
Zoom and AI are just taking care of it. We got your voice.
Great. Well, it's good to see everybody. We were just going to kind of riff on this one and kind of talk. I was going to go on a little bit about a speech I gave last week for a art community that's based here, and I wanted to go into that a bit because it was a whole series I did on holistic business practices and the importance in our craft in the piano world. Like Ethan said, I've been in this for coming on 30 years. Actually, I started when I was 19, and I'm 48. So about 20.
Looking good, Joe. Looking good.
About 28 years of working on pianos and rebuilding pianos. Like Ethan said, we do everything from soundboard building and designing, action redesigning, building, refinishing. Going in the line of our ethos on ethics, we only do waterborne. We've been doing waterborne for about 15 years now, which was really challenging because it's a very hard product to master. And I feel like we have finally mastered waterborne, which is very low to no VOC and non-flammable. We also specialize in traditional French polish. So we make all of our own shellacs in-house. We order just bulk supplies of different kinds of garnet, shellac, super blonde, and then we make everything with our specs. And we've done hand-polished shellac pianos in blue and purple and red, all done in the traditional manner. We also have a number of time ebonized pianos. So that is the old world, where we would take buckets of vinegar and nails and create the slurry that we needed to bring the tannins out on woods like oak, and then shellac them, and then they are a black piano done naturally in the historical way. Doing historical finishes the way that they did them 150, 200 years ago is something that we really enjoy. It's not our bread and butter. Our bread and butter is just pounding out the things that people want. But every month we do one piano that we call our runway piano, and it's always an experiment. We'll move bridges around. We'll redesign a bridge. We'll do a different action design. Right now we're working on a 1962 Baldwin D that we were going to start working on next month, and then we got a call that in 14 days Wynton Marsalis needs to rent it. So we are doing some weird stuff, and we have about 14 days to get this done and onto a stage for Wynton to perform on it. So we'll find out if these little wacky things we're trying actual work. This one might be a little on the dangerous side, but I feel confident we'll pull together a very nice instrument in the end.
Where's the performance?
It's this thing called the Maddie. It's one of the larger city performances that we do in St. Louis. There's an organization here called the Kranzberg Alliance for Arts, and they do this large musical celebration every year. It gets around, I think it's around 20,000, 30,000 people for these outdoor performances. So the entire thing is outdoors. So it is. It's pretty wild. It's good to come. I mean, I would definitely tell people to come check it out. It's focused a lot on jazz. St. Louis is becoming a very popular jazz town, which is something that we've had a fairly large hand in. We started a program about 20 years ago called Keys of the Community. And Keys of the Community is a program where we work with restaurants and bars and cafes, and we donate them upright pianos. So these are ones that, we can't sell, but we can make them play really well. But there's always something wrong, like the cabinet might be a little bad, or maybe the soundboard's cracked up in a number of ways, but it's not affecting the way it sounds. So you can't sell it to a client, but we can take that instrument. We can teach our staff how to do proper repairs and how to knit boards back together. Then we take that and we donate it to a bar or a restaurant with a written consent that they will pay living wages to pianists to perform. It's in our contract. If we find out that they're swapping food for playing, we take the piano back. So we've put a few dozen of those around our city, and I've had 5 or 6 pianists that have moved to St. Louis because when they were touring, they found that they could pick up 3 or 4 or 5 extra gigs at little cafes and bars and restaurants while they're here. And so after doing that 2 or 3 times, they decided just stay here. And so a number of them just live here now. Because there's a lot of bars and restaurants that we put pianos in and that pay, $50, $100 for an hour, but they can nail 3 or 4 or 5 of those a week plus their normal gigs and make a living, an honest living. And that's something that we're a really big proponent of, because being that we are also the biggest mover in the city, so we move 25, 30 pianos a week. We move for some of the big stores, most big stores. And one thing that we've noticed is we're moving like 10 keyboards for every one piano.
Mm,
So we've noticed that for years, and that's alarming to us. And I started noticing that a lot more. That I've seen the numbers keep changing every year. There's more keyboards, less piano, more keyboards, you know, and so that has really been a catalyst for why we're getting more aggressive with launching more and more and more to defend the territory that we have for acoustic instruments and to try to gain some ground that we're losing to digital, because we're losing a lot more than most tuners realize.
hmm.
Being in the situation that I'm in, where I see what everybody's doing, I see the real numbers, and to be quite frank, they're scary. I don't know
Mm,
what the future is for. I mean, the tuning world that I grew up in 30 years ago, where we
yeah.
had 40 full-time technicians that were, a lot of them were nice, some of them were curmudgeons. Even the curmudgeons had work because everybody needed a tuner. Um, and we had 11 stores. That's dramatically changed. So now, if I were to guess, I would say we probably have, I don't know, 13 full-time tuners
Mm,
in St. Louis, maybe more. I don't, around there, and we have 3 stores from 11. So I've watched the change. I've watched it very closely, and we have built our company to keep on changing what we do so we can stay relevant in a very shrinking market.
mm,
I could see from the group, we've got a lot of older people here who I'm sure have more knowledge than I do about what it was like even before my time. But talking to the older people that are here, the work was much, much, much more prevalent. It was,
yeah.
a lot of jobs were doing repairs on pianos in people's homes, fixing older uprights, spending the afternoon there, mending things back together. When I first started, that's what we did. I had at least one large upright that was 80 years old at that point, a week, that I just spent the whole day there, with some family, and they would spend $600-700, and I would just fix everything and make every key work.
Mhm.
Um,
Now,
that's
just to expand on that though, I do know I'm hearing for actually, especially for folks like yourself, like maybe who have an operation, that the whatever work or demand that they do have, they're not finding the technicians for it. Are you
yeah,
seeing
it's
that, right?
hard.
So it's kind of like a double-edged
It's
thing
a
going on,
double-edged
or a
sword. Yeah,
two-sided thing. Like, okay, the sort of industry's changing, but then at the same time, the talent that is required just to serve the market that is there is kind of like, hey, where are they? How are we gonna find them? Yeah, right?
yeah, and I've reached out to you trying to find help,
Yeah.
because we need so to survive in this new world, we have to know a lot more about repairs and stuff. We have to just
Hmm.
much more handy than in the past, when there were just
Mm,
lots and lots of pianos, and you could pass on a
right,
lot of instruments that were
right,
just kind of a basket case. I'm
right.
not saying this is true for everybody. I know that a lot of people have cultivated a very healthy client list, and they have a very good living and
Yeah.
and whatnot. I'm looking more from the standpoint of when you're aggressively growing, which most new people would be in that position where they're aggressively growing. So finding technicians that can really handle the breadth that they need to be able to handle piano problems is very hard. It takes me a solid year of 40 hours a week to get one of my tuners to the stage one, where I could send them out in the field. Um,
Mm,
and looking for people around the country to do that, uh, I bet zero. I mean, I get occasion. I have a woman moving here from France in a couple months to work here, because in France it's even worse. Um,
mm,
they
mm,
have very little pianos right now, and so this woman's been a tuner there for about 15 years, and she's just struggling and is asking to come here to learn rebuilding skills so she can service the more complicated instruments in France to offset the lack of just straight tuning work that's there.
Hmm.
But yeah, so it is a double-edged sword. It's getting thinner. It's sort of like the water's getting lower, so you better be able to swim really well and at the top and stay on top of it and at the highest level of the water. Because if you're not, you're going to cut your belly open, drag it against the rocks. Yeah,
To
it
say
is.
that the poeticism there was not as strong as with the butterfly moment when you were talking about the fall weather coming. But I'll let it. I'm just making a joke.
I wax poetic on a regular basis.
It's hit or miss. It's hit or miss with Joe Jackson.
Yeah, my
But
brain is only in analogies. That's all I can I can think. My poor wife, she's had to deal with so many of them. So yeah, it's
going back to the sort of the general. You said you had spoken recently about you mentioned you. I think you used the term like integrated piano business, or what was the term you used? You said you had spoken recently to a group about integrating your
so
business. Or yeah.
yeah, so the importance of making your business, even if it's just you as one tuner. I
Hmm.
gave examples of plumbers and electricians and all that stuff. Integrating your business into the community, feeding
Yes.
back into your community by one wet method is by good works, helping out people who can't afford to have their piano fixed. In another way is showing up at different panels and different events where business owners' perspective is necessary.
Mm.
Um, those are, and then using your craft to enhance the area that you live in. So an example for any tuner would be, offering your time to look at marketplace pianos for families in need. Reach out to churches or other institutions that have a client base that there is no money and they have needs though. And you as a technician inspecting instruments on these different platforms for people who don't have money is critical because one, it keeps these instruments back in line. It keeps instruments flowing back into a general population that's going to use them. And two, it opens doors for people who can't afford it because a lot of people don't have whatever our service fee would be to go look at a piano or two or three when they finally find one. So doing things like that, working with teachers that provide free lessons. One of the things we created here was a program called Pianos for People, and it's a non-for-profit, and I was the co-founder of that. And we donate pianos. I'm not part of it anymore. I got too busy. But they still are there, and they donate pianos to families in need, and they've donated. I think just a few months ago they hit 400 donated instruments to families.
Mm.
Um, and you don't have to be a big organization to do that. You as a single technician can go to your church or school and you can donate your knowledge. In addition, um, donating your knowledge to technicians who are wanting to learn. If you are at the edge of your career, maybe you have 5 or 10 years left or 2 years left in it, actively trying to mentor more people to give them a leg up in this industry. I'll be quite frank. I would not be here if it wasn't for one particular piano technician who had a brain aneurysm and died. About 20 years ago, I was, 6, 7 years into this craft and I was dying. I could not make it happen. I was trying so hard. I was sending out letters. I was putting ads in the newspaper. I was doing everything that they said. The internet didn't exist, so I didn't have that. And I was about to give up. I was bartending at night, working all day, 6 years of doing that. And I was just like, this isn't meant to happen. I can't make a living. And then a gentleman by the name of Michael Cozart, who was a longtime RPT in my city, tuned a couple pianos, went home, ate a ham sandwich, sat in his chair with his wife, died. That and out of the blue. And a couple weeks later, his wife called, asked if I would. She was in a financial bind because she
Hmm.
was the only one that worked, asked if I wanted to buy the company. We worked out terms, and I spent 2 years buying it from her. In the end, I can't remember what we paid. It was so close to $50,000 in the end, because I just gave her like $25 for every client that landed, and she had like 3,000 clients, 4,000 clients.
A
And so
lot.
every month I would go through all of the clients that landed and then cut her a check for 25, 25, 25, 25, 25. Plus I gave her 10% of any rebuilding work that we pulled. And there were a few restringing jobs and stuff like that we got, where we ended up sending her $900 and $1,000 as her cut in the end. And without that, I wouldn't be here, because I was about to quit. And a lot of people are in that position now. And as tuners who are established, our job really is to be thinking more than just us. We need to be thinking about our craft and giving back and creating mentorships, especially small towns and smaller areas where this just doesn't exist. And getting the next level ready, because keyboards are here and they are killing it. And so if we can't train people to do quality work for acoustic instruments, we can't argue that an acoustic piano is better than a digital keyboard when it's not prepped right, because we all know one thing: a piano is only as good as a technician. No piano, doesn't matter what it is worth a darn with a bad technician. And everybody here, I'm sure, has experienced that numerous times, where they have taken pianos, a Kimball, and made it playable, or even taken a Boisendorfer or a Bechstein and made it truly into what it could be. And without that high caliber ability, we're going to keep losing to keyboards. And our craft will never go away. It'll never go away, but it will be so greatly diminished that technicians in the piano world may be more like technicians working on Celestias, which I work on Celestias. And if someone calls, I got to, drive to Minnesota to work on a Celestia. So we want to think holistically and think about our craft and think about the importance, because every one of you have tuned thousands of pianos and you know so much. And you really have got to pass that on, because it is invaluable. It's it's gold. Your head is full of gold, and it needs to be shared. And what you're doing, Ethan, is amazing. You're capturing so much of this, so people can continuously, forever, be able to log in somewhere and get that gold. I remember, what was his name? Yeah, I just blanked out.
David?
Voicer.
David Anderson.
David Anderson. Yeah. Oh, so much good stuff you got with him.
Yeah.
He's gone now,
Yeah.
But there was, remember Vern? Oh, might not have been around for Vern. Do you guys remember, what was his name? Oh gosh, he was a Golden Hammer guy back in like 1998. I think he died in 2000. Oh, I just blanked out. Vern. Oh, he was.
Can't think of it either.
He took on David Sanderson. When Sanderson came out with the AccuTuner, he challenged him to see if he could tune as well as him. And we had some really cool stuff. And I think the AccuTuner 3 finally came along right before he died, and agreed that might have been able to hear the piano almost as good as he could.
Almost, yeah. Oh, I think I know. Yeah, I think the name isn't quite Vern. It's something. Virgil Smith, right?
Virgil Smith, yes.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes, I got to watch one of the challenges with him, with Dr. Sanderson, tuning against the machine in Chicago. And that was, that wasn't captured by you. And this is a shame, because nobody will be able to see that, because I don't think anybody recorded it.
Yeah. Yeah, we got some, I mean, I think the thing that I appreciate about what we have is, again, we try to get some of that more obscure stuff that, you're not necessarily going to find it, right? We have actually, I was really impressed. We had a musician, a pianist, do one of our master classes a few months back, and he gave a whole presentation on the history of the damper system, all the way back to like harpsichords and different instruments, because he played the harpsichord. And so there was something about the damper system that he was like very obsessed with. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, where are you gonna find this? You know, where are you gonna find this? And it's from a musician, right? It's not your typical piano tech who has the expertise. I wanted to share a story that also I was inspired by you, I believe, for this particular thing, and I think it went really well. Did I tell you about the event we did in New York City? I must have told you that, right?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, so I've been trying to implement, what you talk about. We all can do things in our own way. But what I did was it was last fall, like October, November, I think, and we had been just talking about it, and it's like finally it's time. We're going to do an event, and we're going to bring together our clientele, and the people who are both professional musicians and the people who are just, the clients who are, dilettantes and just playing or whatever. Let's bring them all together. And of course, you can imagine in New York City, what a crowd, right? I mean, we were literally reaching out to Grammy, Grammy and Emmy winning, people to come play a few tunes at our little meetup. So we found a brewery, which was a client of ours in Brooklyn, and we arranged to have a night there. And we set up a lineup of about 12 different acts. We let anyone in our clientele, we sent out a big notice, hey, you want to play for a little bit? Just like one or two songs, right? 5 or 10 minutes. So it's not a huge obligation. And just even out of the people that applied, there were such talented people. We had we had these two guys show up from Juilliard, and this is right when things were going crazy with Israel and Palestine, and they still are, but it was sort of early on in there. And they played a four-hand piano piece. They were graduate students at Juilliard, and they played a four-hand piano piece. One of them was from Israel. One of them was from Palestine. It was just like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and then in addition, the sort of crowd, right? You bring your clientele together. They get to mingle. They get to have fun. We had some chips and salsa. We had some beers, and we sold some T-shirts. It's a lot of work in a way to bring it together.
Yeah.
I do think I try to run the numbers on it and just because actually feel like I talked to you about this. We might have even talked about it in one of our actual live sessions. Just yeah, when you do these things, you do try to think about them intentionally and have a goal, right? So that you're not just throwing money at something and maybe it's going down the drain. Ultimately, in this case, we at least broke even, because we sold some T-shirts, we gave some free piano tunings to the musicians, so that like you said, it sort of sparked their interest in actually maintaining their instruments, and it also like gave work for our team, and yeah, and we had people who booked piano tunings because they were reading about our emails about the event and they were
Yeah.
excited, right?
Yeah.
So inspired by you, Joe, and it went really well. I'm so happy. I can't wait to do it again. Take some work, but yeah, it
Yeah.
was great.
That sounds amazing. Yeah. Well, I'll run you some through. I'll give you some more inspiration. I'll run through some stuff that we're working on this year so everybody can kind of hear that. And if anyone is ever in St. Louis or coming through St. Louis for a reason, I'd love to meet you and show you some of this stuff and buy you a cup of coffee at our piano cafe. So this year one is we shipped a container full of pianos to Uganda. We filled a giant 40-foot container up with pianos and about 22 pianos and then boxes of other musical instruments. Oh, that's my mom. She's working in
Hi,
our piano
Mom.
right now. I'm in the so it's a family run business. My mom, myself, my wife, my dad, they all work with us as well, plus like 23, 24 other people. So we filled the container up and sent it off to Uganda, and we've got footage filmed back from them opening it up and playing the pianos. And so we're gonna next year hopefully fly to Uganda to help work on these instruments and teach the tuner there how to do more repairs. We also launched our piano cafe, which is a piano cafe cultural center that is made out of pianos. So the walls and the
Let's unpack that
floor.
a little bit. I want to go back to the Uganda story because it
Sure.
sounds like there's more to it and there's some interesting sidelines. So
Yeah.
so there's a technician there. First of all, where'd the idea come from?
So this gentleman named Thomas Suwanda, who
Mhm.
is who has a seminary there, Catholic
Mhm.
seminary, is in St. Louis doing his doctoral,
Mm.
and we met, and he had mentioned that pianos in Uganda are incredibly expensive, like crazy expensive,
Mm.
and asked if we could help him get some, and we said, of course. And so my wife was like, Joe, what are you doing? Why? This is another one of those things that uh, in her mind, she's like, oh God, why are we doing this? My mind was like, why are we not doing this? So we put out a campaign and asked people to donate their instruments. So
Mm.
we, for free, went around and picked all these instruments up. We brought them back, we cleaned them, we tuned them, we got them all fixed, and then we boxed them up. And it was not cheap. It was about $27,000 to get a 40-foot container from here to New Jersey, from New Jersey to Kenya, from Kenya, 800 miles into Uganda because it's landlocked. And we had to really orchestrate the inside. The inside, we went through thousands of dollars worth of straps and foam because the shipping company told us that they drive about 80 miles an hour and they hit potholes that are about 3 foot deep. The highways in Uganda and Kenya are awful. So these pianos, we're basically, have you ever done the thing where you have an egg and you have to try not to break it? You
Sure,
know,
sure.
you put rubber bands around it and you drop it from, and and everybody in school has to try to not break the egg by dropping it.
Uh,
We did that to like 23 pianos. We
wow.
basically had to create multiple little caption things so that these pianos, as they bounced around in this steel container, didn't shatter. And when we watched the video of them unloading it with it, which they did with a bunch of UN peacekeepers, which that was a little weird. It was a bunch of blue hats. Um, all the pianos came out fine. No broken legs,
Wow.
no broken benches, nothing broke. They all made it there. Horribly out of tune. I will say that when they sent the videos, I was cringing because
Wow.
it took about 3 months to get there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a wild
So,
one.
and so there is a technician there,
There
and
is
yeah, and
one
you one. There's just one.
rudimentary skill only, not a very advanced technician from what I've been
Sure.
told.
But I'm guessing now he's got work.
Oh,
Right?
yeah,
He's got work.
23 of them. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
got a little economy that's just
Yeah.
kind of little piano musical economy.
Yeah, yeah. Do you guys remember when the Guild did that thing, send a piano to Havana? Does anyone remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, the guy Ben Truhaft was
Yeah.
his wife actually was in my lab at City University of New York. Um,
Small world.
and I that's how I started my neuroscience degree is I met Ben when I moved to New York in at NYU, New York University, where he was working. And we were talking about piano tuning. He mentioned his wife's a neuroscientist working on birdsong. He's like, go visit her lab that if you're interested. And I did. I ended up being in his wife's lab, being hired by her mentor. And yeah, so I got to know him pretty well. He's quite the character. But that was his baby. Send a piano to Havana.
Yeah, that always stuck in my mind. Like when I read that article, I was really gobstruck. I thought, man, that guy's got it figured out. That's what you got to do. You got to get the piano where it needs to be. And that was really part of why, things like Pianos for People, those were one of those, some of the impotence for why I started some of these other things, because that article got my brain really like processing
Mhm.
how a piano is 600 pounds, 400 pounds, whatever. It's so heavy, we forget that it's not part of the house. And I think it's really important, that we remember that they can move. We've done things like drag pianos up to the mountaintops, like dragged miles up, just to show the public. We did that about 7 years ago. It was about a 4 mile trek up to the top of this a mountain in St. Louis, out in the woods in a federal and national park, to show people that pianos are not just part of your house. A piano is something that can be moved. And if I
Mhm.
can move a piano up to the top of a mountain with two helpers,
Mhm.
you can fit a piano in your living room somewhere.
Mhm. Mhm.
because that is our biggest complaint is people say, I don't have anywhere to put that thing. So that was another one of the things that our kind of weird way of looking at getting our point across.
I want to take another sideline here because I think this is interesting. Now I've hung out with you. I've visited your shop. I've stayed at your house. Thank you very much, actually. Um, and and I've seen kind of a little bit of the way the day-to-day works. You know, you're running around here and here. There's a lot to do, and you're a busy guy, and you got a lot of energy as you're working. At least on the days I was around, I'm assuming
It's
that's
pretty much
pretty
everywhere.
standard. Yeah. Um, and I think what I'd like to do is just take a minute to talk about idea to implementation, right? For you, it may be sort of intuitive, right? For me, I would say I'm pretty good at that. I mean, I've done some crazy stuff, but at the same time, I think there can be these fun ideas that you have. Well, let's take the concert, right? That I hosted. It's like we could do a concert and we could invite all the people from our community. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, it would be cool. And then it's like months of like a technician saying, hey, what if we use that venue? Well, I don't know if that one's gonna work ever. Any thoughts about how you tend to just like get these things into action? Is it that you bring people together and you sort of build a coalition where you do this, you do this, you do this? Is it more just kind of just literally like, Ryan, this has got to be done. Let me get it done. This has got to be done. Let me get it done. What's your process in sort of taking these ideas and manifesting them?
Step one for me is get uncomfortable. I have to always make myself get uncomfortable to make to get a thought to actually form. So if that's something like waking up at a really weird time, so I don't want to be up. So when I wake up at that weird time, I am not wanting to be up, and it brings me out of my normal thinking patterns, and
Hmm.
so I'm not distracted by my normal thinking pattern. I backpack, and that's where I get a lot of my time where I work on ideas where I'll say, okay, I'm going to go for 4 days and I don't listen to music. I just quietly walk through the woods with the back on and strategize ideas. I drive with no sound for hours to try to get the idea to formulate first. That's the first thing.
Mhm.
Get uncomfortable because I can't think when I'm comfortable. We all have that thing where when we're comfortable, we're like, well, I'll get to it. And I've found that if I don't force myself into uncomfortable situations, I can't overcome well, I'll get to that reflex that happens. So that's the very first thing. The second is um, there's power in people. I do not take credit for almost everything that I've initiated. I would never have pulled off any of it without the right teams. Um, you know, you're only as strong as the people you surround yourself with and you work with. So I partner with a lot of different people because when you're strategizing, it's sort of like it's like being a coach of a football team. You know a lot of people, you know all their strengths and weaknesses, and you take that fun idea and then you get to armchair quarterback it through all these thought processes of different people so you can get them to put their talent into it, and so it gets bigger and better and more improved and more colorful, and then the more people you can work with, the better. Now there is a caveat to that. You To get something across the finish line, you kind of have to be um, not, lack of a better word, not an asshole, but you have to be pushy because most people just don't want to commit to anything. So even if they have an idea, they don't want to commit to it because they're like, well, what about this event? Well, what about this venue? What about that venue? Everybody's got 1,000 things and everyone has 1,000 great ideas. And you have to just accept really quick, these are all great ideas, but throw them all in the trash. Pick one and just go with it and forget if it's not going to work. Because if it's not going to work, even if it's not going to work, you can still make it work, and it's not the thing you wanted. But you have to hold everything loosely.
Right. Yeah,
That's
if
the
you have
other.
too much doubt, or you lean too far into it not working, then you miss the opportunity to make something work, right?
Yeah,
It might work, or you might make something work, but you
yeah.
just gotta
It's
commit.
like voicing a piano. Okay, so everybody here's voiced pianos, correct? Everybody knows how to use chemicals, and they know how to use needles, and they know when to use chemicals and when to use needles and all this stuff. When you start voicing a piano, you only can bring out what the piano has in it. So you have an idea of what you want the piano to sound like. You go to the voice of the piano, and you're like, I'm going to make it like this. Then you start working on it, and you realize pretty quickly this piano's voice is this, and I wanted this, but now I hear it and understand, nope, I'm following the piano. The piano's not following me. So then you bring the piano to the best thing that it can be, which quite often is totally different than what you were thinking, but you have to hold the voicing very loosely. You have an optimum idea of your idea of what you want it to be, but then you embrace, accept, and run with the reality, what really will be there, what really can happen. And the voicing is a very good example of that, because once you stick a needle in a hammer, all bets are off. When you pull that out and you put it back in, you boom, that piano just told you what it can really do. And then you better change all of your plans and expand based on what it just told you. And every other idea is like that. I have so many ideas that start off as one thing, and then in the end, people come to me like, man, how did you think of that? That was a really great way. And I'm like, I didn't think of it. I just kept following paths until boom, that's where I ended up.
Right.
You just have to enjoy the process and enjoy what you get no matter what. And if you are enjoying it, everyone else will more than likely enjoy it, except for my wife, who hates everything that I do.
Still lives with you. There must be something that's working.
20, 25 years together. She is the most forgiving person on the planet because everything I do is wrong. But wonderful woman. Um, so that's it. And perfection is the enemy of completion. You can't go for perfection with ideas. You've got to go for what is realistic. And um,
But
it's
perfection, like you said, oftentimes uh, yeah, oftentimes it kind of assembles itself. It's a perfect something else, right? If you imagine a perfect this, and it's all you could think about, it's got to be a perfect this and this and this. You know, leave no room for like a little bit of wiggle, and you go here and you go here. Then you don't have the chance to make a perfect that. Which the person goes, "How did you make that perfect that?" And you're like, "Well, I had an idea of a perfect this other thing, and then just yeah, here it is. It's
And then
done."
here it is. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've all been in situations where we're like working on a note and we're like, man, I'm gonna get this thing right. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. No, I'm gonna change this around. I'm gonna move the hammer in a little bit. And then you realize, okay, I got it really close to what I want. Well, do I want to do that 88 more times? Is that even realistic? Will I get that? You just can't, you have to not overwork anything. You really have to accept what is the path of least resistance, not because it's easy. And that's one thing that I struggle with when I think about that. I'm like, am I following the path of least resistance because I'm lazy? And it's not. I mean, there's lazy. Lazy is you just don't do it. But the path of least resistance is usually the path where everything's flowing in the direction that you're flowing and you're going in the right way. If you're
Mhm.
getting a lot of resistance, then you're going the wrong direction. So
Mhm.
why force it? And following really, really, especially, we've all tuned pianos that we're fighting and sometimes we change the way we're moving the pins. We change if we're pulling more or notching more. We change these other things. And it's very similar. Working on piano so often is very similar to so many things in life, with things like manipulating a pin block. We have the idea of what we want to notch and feel click every single time. Um, but then you hit a 1972 Baldwin with that freaking delaminated mess of tightness, and suddenly, no, the click is going to turn to a snap. And now we have to understand that this tuning is going to be a very different feeling than what we want, but we're still going to make it perfect in the end. We just have to completely change what we think tuning is for this particular piano and follow this instrument to where it needs to go.
Um,
That's kind of what that.
let's, I want to make sure we have a minute here to talk about where you are, and this is yet another one of your initiatives. The room that you're in is a is a new space for you guys, and you're launching that, and
Yeah.
anything else you want to talk about? I think you talked about it just to me before we started, but I don't know that you mentioned the affiliations in is it Ireland or Scotland? I forget.
Scotland.
Scotland,
Scotland.
yeah. Anyways,
Scotland.
go make sure you cover this stuff.
Yeah. So right now I'm in our piano cafe, which kind of like, yeah, it's full of boxes because next weekend is our big opening. But we've got a Mason Hamlin double A up there for right now, and the next week we're moving in a D. So this is our performance space. We fit about 35 people here. Our cafe is over here, and it's all made out of pianos. All of those, that is probably 25 different instruments that we sliced up and we milled. The walls and everything are pianos. So all of our trim, it's all pianos. We're building the walls and the tables and the chairs out of pianos. So, well, the chairs not out of pianos. Sorry, the tables and everything out of pianos. We at the piano cafe called Noteworthy, we're going to have weekly, about 4 or 5 times a week, we're doing piano yoga. So we have live piano players that come, and we do. My wife teaches a yoga class with a live pianist. We're having piano meditation. So we have a live pianist that comes for a quiet lunch meditation. So you bring your brown bag, you buy a coffee, you can sit in the room, and we have a pianist that's going to be playing for lunches. So it's a no talking area. You just quietly sit and just enjoy the piano and eat your lunch. We also are doing piano technology classes, just like how to do repairs and stuff like that. We're doing a class on once a month for performers, and basically this class is it's called Piano Pro, and it's how to talk to a technician. It's what are the dumb little things you can fix in an emergency, like a pedal that's not right or it's too loose, and then how can you identify what's going on so when you call your technician, you can tell them real information that they can actually show up with the right tool. So we're going to be doing that once a month, as well as we're doing a lot of engagement with younger audiences. So we do once a month learning class with kids where we take the pianos apart for them. And this last one we did a couple weeks ago, what we did was we took a bunch of soundboards, we sliced them up, and we drill and cut them so they could make birdhouses out of soundboards. And then we had all these bags full of piano parts and descriptions in the wall and paper that told them what every part was and what it does. And so they got to decorate the birdhouse that they made out of soundboards with all these piano parts, and then learn a flange, a jack, a let-off eye, what these things were and where they are in the piano. So as they're building it, they're looking at an action that's in front of them, and they're like, I'm going to take these eyelets, and I'm going to take this let off, and I'm going to take this. And so they're learning through playing with it all the names of a piano part. So we're working with a few different schools to do lessons like that. So that's noteworthy. Plus, we have a giant recycling thing here where we're repurposing and turning pianos. We have a couple hundred pianos that we're processing right now back into raw material for people to build with. In addition, we're going out in about a month. We're leaving for Scotland again, where there is a thing called the Piano Drome, which is a giant Coliseum looking kind of performance space that's made out of pianos. So it's about 5 levels tall. It's about maybe 17, 18 feet tall, maybe 20 feet tall. And it sits about, I'd say 70 people, maybe 70 people, 80 people in a circle. And the pianos, it's a completely 100% made out of pianos. So they're uprights that are stacked and built into each other with harps that hold everything together. And there's a number of them in the back that are still strung. So when the pianist sits in the center of the circle, the whole stage, everything you're sitting in, kind of hums a little bit and comes to life and sympathetically vibrates slightly to the show. So when the show is going on, you are in it. You're deeply in it. So we are working with them.
And you've been there, or you?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have been there, and I've been working with them for the last 2 years on design ideas and talking about different things. And so I'm going back out, and I sent them piano scan rails. So when I go out, we're going to install them, and we're going to talk more about how we build one here in St. Louis. And then once we get this going, they will be able to perform in Edinburgh, Scotland, and we'll be able to play it live on a QRS system here in the Noteworthy Cafe. So as they're doing a show at like 9 o'clock at night, at 6 in the morning, we'll be here watching it and drinking coffee live,
Cool.
just a few seconds behind how them playing. And the eventual goal is to build a piano drum here. And the eventual long-term goal is that there will be one piano drum on each continent, and then they will all be interlinked. And then the hope is that we can get a community of technicians and pianists that want to say, hey, I want to see all 7 piano drums before I die, or perform in all 7 piano drums. And we'll be able to share artists, and we'll be able to share technical skills, because the interesting thing about working in Scotland is their pianos are not like ours. They are weird uprights, and very odd actions, and cabinetry that's not like the stuff that I see here in St. Louis. So it really is eye-opening to see the instruments and hear how they play there. And I would suspect as we go to different parts of the world, we're going to see more and more of that. Just very unique instruments that are different and calibrated for that community more. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on opening the cafe. I know,
you.
you had been talking about it for a while, and you had the property, and it's been when would you say was because I know for people that aren't, which is pretty much everybody who haven't been there, you have a workshop and sales center for your pianos, and then it's just down the street. It's kind of like an old gas station property, right? Those corner gas stations, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so this used to be a gas station a long time ago, and then down the street is our headquarters. It's about it's a 10,000 square foot building, and there we do the majority of our rebuilding, and we have our showroom, and that's where our admin staff is. Then, and about 10 minutes away, in another part of the city, we have a 20,000 square foot manufacturing facility, and that's where we keep our moving department, where we have our box trucks and all of our equipment. In addition, is where we are doing our build out and setup, because in 2028, we hope to unveil our first prototype of an instrument that we've been designing here that we're hoping we can launch in 2030. It's a lot of work, and we're really hoping and praying that in 2028 we will have the prototype ready for people to start experimenting with. And then once we get that done, we're going to launch a production facility where it is 100% made here in St. Louis of this particular instrument that I can't really go into. I can't go into it. It's kind of secret. So, but it will be piano. It's real. And a tuner will have to work on it. And its design, the design that I'm working with is something that's going to elevate and make it more accessible for people to have this, and to create more opportunity for piano players and technicians all to have this thing in their life that will put some spark back in the piano world a little bit. And hopefully initiate more people to fall in love with this percussion instrument.
Wonderful.
So,
well,
yeah.
And also that was wonderful. A little tangent to my goal was to say, as I was describing your neighborhood and the location, is that you have noticed this. You had told me you had noticed this property for years almost, right? It was kind of just like somebody owned it. They didn't do anything with it. It's just an old abandoned gas station corner. When did you first have the idea did you have the idea that that corner should be a cafe before you acquired the property, or when you were kind of first seeing it? I just kind of want to get a sense of, yes, it's taken maybe a year and a half to actually build the thing, but how long has it been since you kind of had the germ of the idea of this piano cafe?
Well, when I bought my building on the street 15 years ago, I approached him and asked him if I could buy it to turn it into a piano cafe. And I just had to sit. I asked him every year for 12, 13 years, 14 years. Pretty much I'd sent word to him just saying, asking him, I'm ready. And he would just say, nope, not interested. And he did that for years and years and years. And then finally, a year and a half ago, He finally said yes. He was 93. I bought it, and then a couple months later, he died. So it took a long time. It took a long time.
In essence, he was kind of holding on to it for no reason, right?
No reason. He just didn't have. He didn't need to sell it. He had a lot of property everywhere, and he was
Yeah.
a curmudgeon, kind of not a, he was not a nice guy, but he was a fair trader. And after we did this, he called me and he said, "Joe, we did a good deal together. I want to buy you a cup of coffee because it's always good to do a good deal with somebody." And now he's on like WC Fields. And he's like, "John, yeah, I'd love to have a coffee with you. I'll buy you one." He's like, "All right, well, we should get together real soon because I'm 93 and I don't know how long I'll be alive." And then a couple months later, he passed away. I never got that cup of coffee.
Oh,
Yeah, so he screwed me,
wouldn't you
man.
know?
Screwed
Wouldn't you
me.
know?
Yeah. No, but
But you got a lot of cups of coffee here in this little
I got a lot
cafe,
of
so maybe
coffee
it all
now.
worked out.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. But with all things, one thing that I've discovered in business is that you have to have patience in the long view. And everybody, all your technicians know this. You've all had to learn to tune, and gosh, that I'm sure, unless I'm just the only idiot out there, was really hard to learn to do. And we all did it, which means we all have that ability to think further out than a lot of people nowadays. Yeah.
Cool.
Is there any questions? Anyone have any questions for me? Anyone ever go through St. Louis? Anyone travel through this area ever, or live near this area, or have any
We don't
questions?
always have questions,
Oh,
but if anybody has them, you can put them in the chat or raise your digital hand, or you can unmute and you can speak up. But
I love questions. So
yeah, I always have the questions, so
yeah.
that's why I'm the host.
Ah, got it. Got it.
But yeah, no, it's been about an hour and it's been fun. So we could probably wrap up here soon. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to address. It seems like you covered most of the stuff to share about.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
want to give your contact info, Joe, how can folks reach out to you directly?
Jackson, you can reach me on my email, joe@jacksonpianos.com, if they have any questions. They can check us out at jacksonpianos.com, www.hbl, whatever jacksonpianos.com, our website.
Mhm.
If you're in the city of St. Louis, always welcome. Swing by, I'll buy you a cup of coffee, give you a tour of what we're working on, and I always love taking a break and showing people some stuff, and then also learning from them because everybody here has got so much knowledge that I really appreciate learning as much as I can from everybody. But yeah, those are the best ways to get a hold of me. Gosh, I was thinking there was a couple other things that we got cooking, and I just blinked out. We had the piano drum, launched the cafe, Uganda, the secret weapon against piano boredom. Uh, yeah, I think that's all I got right now. Yeah,
It's a lot. It's a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. It's been a pretty good year. Next year, I'm hoping will be even bigger.
Very cool. All right. Well, I'll sign us off and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. And of course, like once we end, you can jump back on the Zoom. We'll do a quick wrap up. But I'll do our outro. We have reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. Thank you very much to Joe Jackson for joining us today. As always, we are brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. For those of you that joined us today by signing up for this session individually, you can make your life more convenient by subscribing to Piano Tech Radio Hour at just $16 a month. You'll get the recording of today's session in our member area, as well as automatic registration for each week's new session. Sign up at bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. Don't forget about the audio only podcast. We're gaining back momentum there. Our Substack, where we explore lots of unique topics in the piano industry, as well as our socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And sign up for our email list at the website, pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. We will see you all again next week.